Rhys McClenaghan go in search of his second European Championship title. For him, he regards it as something of a defence of his title because he hasn't been able to participate at the European Championship since then. So these are the competitors in the men's pommel horse competition. We begin with Dawid Beliavski, the silver medalist in the all-around yesterday, and a wonderful pommel horse competitor, sixth strongest in qualification. A young and impressive pommel horse specialist is Joshua Nathan, second strongest in qualification. In the absence of Max Whitlock, Joshua Nathan has all eyes on him in Great Britain. After Davtyan of Armenia, fourth strongest in qualification, a fine all-round athlete. Ilya Kovtun of Ukraine, the eighth strongest in qualification, and the bronze medalist from the all-around. Champion and champion once again, Nikita Nagorny, seventh strongest in qualification. He's going for his third medal of the competition. Now what about this gentleman, Kuki Kachikian of Armenia? He's come out of nowhere, the 18-year-old, as the third strongest qualifier. And Joe Fraser, the second British athlete in the final, the reigning parallel bars world champion, but on pommel horse in this final. And there is the man that leads the way. He'll be last to go as well, Rhys McClenaghan. Now we will have the introduction of the women's vault finalist, Anastasia Motak of Ukraine, the sixth strongest in qualification and a bronze medalist from the last European Championships. Sara Peta of Hungary, the 18-year-old, is a European Games bronze medalist in vault, the eighth strongest in qualification. There's the top qualifier, Jessica Gadirova of Great Britain, and the all-around bronze medalist from yesterday. Chenga Bachkoy of Hungary, fifth strongest in qualification, and a Youth Olympic Games silver medalist on vault. The second strongest qualifier is the all-around silver medalist from yesterday, Angelina Melnikova. And Jasha Kiselev, the seventh strongest in qualification, the 27-year-old veteran vaulter, makes her first European Championship vault final. Julia Steingruber, the third strongest in qualification and the Olympic Games bronze medalist from 2016. And Marina Nekrasova, 26-year-old, fourth strongest in qualification, seventh European Championships and her first ever apparatus final at the European Championships of Artistic Gymnastics. It's a grand field for the men's pommel horse and the women's vault competition, and we invite you to join us for it now. The start list for the men's pommel horse competition sees the second strongest qualifier, Joshua Nathan of Great Britain, perform second in the order. Then we wait a while for Kuki Kachikian of Armenia, who is the third strongest performer, and he'll be followed right at the very end by Rhys McClenaghan of Ireland, the top performer in the qualification process. The women's vault competition sees Jessica Gadirova of Great Britain, the top qualifier, go third in the running order. Two down from her, and the second strongest in qualification, Angelina Melnikova. And then we will have the opportunity to see Julia Steingruber as the penultimate competitor, the third strongest in qualifying. We begin with the gentleman who won the all-around silver medal yesterday, Dawid Beliavski of the Russian Federation. His score in qualification was 14.133. He's just won the Russian national title on pommel horse. By the way, you have to be quite good to do that. It's not an easily won title.
Largely consider Beliavski to be a very fine all-around gymnast, but if you have to pick really good events of his, pommel horse is certainly one of them, parallel bars being the other that he really stands out on.
What's really interesting as we look at Dawid Beliavski is, although he scored 14.133 in qualification, he got a 14.933 in the all-around final yesterday. So from sixth strongest in qualification, he represents a legitimate threat. Away he goes.
A scissor to handstand to open. just maybe a little flicker of nerves, and that there, the sewn, that gets him half a tenth, or excuse me, half a point, rather. When it goes well, pommel horse looks so easy to do. It's not at all. It takes an incredible amount of strength. Right there.
Just about managed to recover that. The legs seemed to crisscross for a moment.
It's so impressive when gymnasts make a small mistake on pommel horse, given that you cannot stop.
Oh my goodness, David Beliavsky really lost his position completely and tumbled over into that dismount, and certainly was not as it was supposed to be. But the key thing is he gets himself up and he appears to be shaken and nothing more than shaken.
Pommel horse is exhausting. There's no other word for it. And by the end of a routine, no matter how effortless you have made it look, you are just completely gassed. And so when you get to that point and you have to swing up to handstand, keeping your arms straight to avoid a deduction, it can just take it all out of you. And that's what we saw here, just the fatigue and not being able to hang on. Gymnasts are very adept at falling. It's one of the first things that you learn as a gymnast is how to fall properly without hurting yourself, and that's what he was able to do here, fortunately.
The women's vault competition begins with Anastasia Motag of Ukraine, the 6th strongest in qualification, with 13.716, a bronze medalist at the last European Championships, where she also won a team gold. She had a 0.1 penalty for this first vault in qualification. If she can eliminate that, then that might help a little bit.
Very difficult work.
Similar outcome from Motag. As you say, some difficult vaulting. We're going to see some 5.4 difficulty vaults in this final.
And one of the most common is the double twisting Yurchenko, which is what she does here. Not bad, just a little bit low on landing, maybe lacking a little bit of amplitude. She has been such an impressive prospect for Ukraine. Really came on strong at the end of last year. And it's because of skills like this. But you see she does put her left foot outside the white lines there. That will be a small deduction. What the Code of Points mandates is that gymnasts finish kind of dead center, and that's why we have those lines on the landing mat.
Yes, and that was where the 0.1 penalty was attributed in the qualification process. Those of you new to watching the women's vaults, then you will get an indication of the gymnasts' difficulty before they get underway, because they must declare the vault that they are intending to produce. And we have got some difficult vaults coming up later on. 13.966 for Motag, so she is down by a tenth from qualification.
And unlike in the all-around, we see 2 vaults in apparatus finals, and they need to come from 2 different groups, which is a fancy way of saying they need to have different entry positions onto the table. And what she is most likely planning to do here is a round off onto the board again, and then a half turn onto the table.
So Anastasia Motag is the first competitor to perform in this women's vault competition. Silver medalist at the Ukrainian National Championships in September of last year, where she also won the all-around title.
Very steady work from her. First the Yurchenko double, and then this round off, half on, front layout, half turn off. Excuse me, that's probably front pike, half turn off. A little bit of form on the after flight. See the bent legs just a little bit. The body position could be slightly improved, but the landing, very steady indeed.
Yes, and that term you used there, Blythe, you refer to a little bit of form. referring to their sort of breach in the gymnasts' traditional form that is expected by the code of points. So that little bend of the legs, crucial. 13.166 for Beliavsky. He's down by a whole mark from in qualification. Now Joshua Nathan of Great Britain, the second strongest performer in the qualification process. He has had success at World Cup level on the Pommel horse.
Following in the footsteps of some fantastic British pommel horse workers.
And with exceptional difficulty as well, of 6.9 for this routine in qualification. He goes for big, big skills.
There's one of them, the Busnari, flares through the handstand, 360-degree turn, flaring out.
Little execution deductions here and there, and that was a feature of his qualification too, but my word, those flares are high. The hip line there, he's in the rafters.
He is, and ideally on pommel horse, you see amplitude in body position, the hips well above the horse.
Unfortunately for Joshua Nathan, eventually it just caught up with him. Little moments here and there.
It did, and he did such a good job early in this routine of having a little form break and recovering, which again is so hard to do on pommel horse. Beautiful dismount.
Two of the very strongest contenders have had real problems in this final. Remember, the last competitor to go is Rhys McClenaghan, the European champion from 2018, and the World Championship bronze medalist too.
Well, he was getting through really well, and then this first element, you see the legs come apart. That's the sewn. Same element we saw from David Beliavsky.
And one thing that is very worth considering as we look back at the slow motion and see all of these little moments here where he has to bring the legs back together, the strength that gets expended doing that.
Absolutely. And pommel horse, you have to be so precise. One false move, you're kind of standing on the ground.
So it's an average of 13.699 for Motat. We'll come back to that as Sara Petter's hands go down as she lands her first vault. She's the 8th strongest from qualification.
She went for the double twisting Yurchenko, as we've seen from her in the European event final before. And this vault, unfortunately, didn't get the block that she needs to really set up the twist. As a result, has to touch her hands down. She came off quite high on the horse, really reached back and got a block off the back of the horse, which is not necessarily ideal for setting that vault up and being able to really go for the twist and spot and open out, go for a really good landing.
Bronze medalist at the European Games. Her first international honours. Been competing recently at the Hungarian event championships where she was a silver medalist on this apparatus. .966, the opening score for Sara Petter, and that's compared to a 14.066 from qualification. Now, in qualification, her second vault was a difficulty value of 4.4, a whole mark lower than the first. Going for something higher this time. And again, for Sara Petter, it's a difficult landing, a more uncomfortable one, and one hopes that all is well, that she just rather gingerly makes her move away from the podium.
Just didn't have the height nor the what we call block, the push through her shoulders to set up the after flight. It looks like her hands even skidded a little bit as she came onto the table, so really just was not able to get the takeoff that she would have needed to do this vault successfully.
It's so important as the score comes in of a 13.33 for Joshua Nathan that we contextualise once again how little competition these athletes have had. in recent years. And that's not about making excuses for athletes. That's a simple fact of life. They just haven't had the chance to do this sort of thing. Where are you going to vault if you cannot train in your gym? You might be able to work on a pommel horse somewhere small, but you're not going to be vaulting. Arta Davtyan of Armenia, the fourth strongest in qualification, a very stylish all-around athlete who qualified for the Olympic Games at the last World Championships.
Usually quite a steady competitor. Nice variety of skills in this routine. There, the Russian Renaissance. Does it again. All of that earns him massive difficulty points.
Now it's interesting for a gymnast like Davtyan, you mentioned the term there, Clyde, his steadiness, and it's an opposite term to use. Could well be a good day for a steady gymnast, actually.
Well, pommel horse is so unpredictable that sometimes a steady routine, perhaps it's not as spectacular. He doesn't rely on the flair skills the way that we will see from some of the competitors later in the order, but he has done his job and turned in something solid. No falls, and no huge deductions either.
His difficulty score in qualification was the lowest of all of the competitors. Sharapeta gets no score for her second vault, so it's 6.483.
If you do not land feet first, you will receive a 0 on vault.
Jessica Gadirova received a 14.516 in qualification. She also received an all-around bronze medal yesterday. She has real amplitude, doesn't she, in that work?
Fantastic technique on this double twisting Yurchenko. And one of the reasons she was the top qualifier into this final is that absolutely textbook technique and form. The push that she gets off the table is one of the very best in this competition, and it gives her the height and the distance to really crank the twist around and open out, look for the landing. Look at the launch. Laid out body position, legs glued together, just the step on the landing. That's not going to cost her too much.
That's an important point you make, Blythe, that is a feature of how we watch gymnastics. We so often attribute every single thing to whether a gymnast steps or not on landing, and as you said there, it's not of any great consequence. The form in the air was the key thing. Sometimes we reduce a gymnast's entire career down to whether they take a step or not on landing. That's a fine number, 14.6 for Jessica Gadirova, down by 1/10 in qualification, but the best single vault score we've seen thus far in the competition. Her second vault in qualification had a 2/10 lower starting value and wasn't as well executed, 14.333 for this.
Well, again, really, really nice technique. She has very good heel drive, her round off onto the board, and that allows her to really get a good angle as she comes onto the table and get a good push off.
There's no doubt about it. She's been one of the standout competitors of these European Championships, and all at the age of just 16.
She has, on every event, you see this capacity for doing really hard stuff really well. Great layout position, just a little step on the landing. Like you said, no big deal. She'll probably lose 1/10 of a point for that. But what she does in the air was really, really good.
14.266 for Arta Davtyan. He goes into the gold medal position. So it is Davtyan, then Beliavsky, then Joshua Nathan. Now, does the door open slightly for this youngster? He's already demonstrated that he can take a chance if he's given one. The reigning junior European champion on the pommel horse is Ilya Kovtun of Ukraine, and he won the senior all-around bronze medal yesterday in a marvellous display, 8th strongest in qualification.
The step up from the junior ranks to the senior ranks has gone very, very well for him. Impressive throughout the men's all-around final. Just look at the deliberation, deliberately placing his hands. And as the Russian went to swing in between the pommels, adds a degree of difficulty, but
well, it is becoming one of those days on the pommel horse. 3 of the 4 competitors have had unintentional dismounts from the apparatus.
And one of the things that we have to remember is, in addition to the fact that there just haven't been many competitions, and certainly not many international competitions leading up to this European Championship, you have gentlemen like him who have done a complete all-around qualification, so 6 routines, and then 24 hours later they did another 6 routines in the all-around final, and here is a 3rd full day of competition. So it's exhausting.
Well, quite right. Ilya Kovtun, I mean, he's already proven himself to be an exemplary young athlete at this competition, but it has doubtless really taken its toll on him physically. He is just 17. The promise, though, is very clear.
He has everything that he needs to be successful at the senior international level. And yes, this is a routine that had a fall. Okay, you can't discount that. But apart from the fall, he displayed really excellent technique.
14.466 average for Jessica Gadirova. She goes into the gold medal position. Now, Chenga Bachkoy, the second competitor from Hungary, team bronze medalist from the European Championships last year, where she was 4th on vault, 5th strongest in qualifying here.
Very steady Yurchenko, 1.5 twist, blind landing, so she doesn't see the floor before her feet hit. Dealt with that very well, just the step on the landing. She has very sound vaulting technique. And this comes onto the table quite well. Is able to get a good push. Good vertical amplitude, plenty of time to complete that 1.5 twist and really go for a good landing. Opens out her arms. Just in good time. Again, little step forward.
There has been some fine success from the Hungarian women's team when it comes to vaulting at the European Championships in recent years. Chenga Bachkoy scores 13.766 for her first vault. She's down by almost 2/10 from qualification.
Historically as well, the Hungarian women have been very strong on vault. Oh, and nearly with the stick. This is a different style of vault that we have seen from the other competitors. This Sukahara entry, doing a quarter turn to a half turn, and then a back layout off with a full twist. And she nearly had the stick. Clean in the air. Good push off the horse. Maybe just a little bit piked as she neared the ground there. That will be a small deduction. Right there, bends at the hips. Ideally, you want to keep your body completely laid out.
Ilya Kovtun scores 12.966. That has him in 4th position. This is a final that is waiting for somebody to step up and grab control of it. Davtyan is comprehensively the leader at the moment, and he's looking like a not too decent bet for a medal. Armenia generally is looking like not too decent a bet for a medal because they still have another competitor to come. Right on cue, as you mentioned, decent bet for a medal. Here comes Nikita Nagorny, 7th strongest in qualification, 14.066 for the gymnast who's won everything so far. And he had that same score in the all-around, or rather, let me rephrase that, in the all-around final he scored 14.133, up just a little, had an extraordinary save.
Yes, where we saw his body brush the pommel horse, and he just kept going. And the strength that it took to muscle that and to continue on, oh, it was just as impressive as much of his gymnastics.
He's looking pretty impressive thus far, is Nikita Nagorny, as he uses the Hekyar-Shivado combination. And just about gets his way through that, a little bit corkscrewed, working into that dismount, but in context of what we've seen thus far, that will certainly put him right up there.
But so much strength. He is somebody who he himself does not think that he is an extraordinary pommel horse worker. But one thing that he does is he gets himself into these major finals just by being clean and steady. And in a final like this today, clean and steady sets you up pretty well to potentially earn a medal. Plenty of difficulty in this exercise. He maybe doesn't have the extraordinary amplitude in his hips above the horse as some of the pommel horse specialists, but you hit a routine like that, and that's pretty good.
Chengavachkoy is in the bronze medal position, 13.649, her average score, 13.533 for that second vault. Angelina Melnikova of the Russian Federation, second strongest in qualification, 14.45. Silver medalist in the all-around.
Really crisp double twist from Yurchenko. Just a small hop on the landing. In the air, looked great. She's done this vault for several years and always done it very well. Just a little bit of crossed legs in the air. The judges will see that and take a small deduction. But overall, the dynamics are very good. And there's the push that she gets off of the table and the distance as well.
Angelina Melnikova had a score of 14.6 for this vault in qualification, a 14.3 for her second vault, and her score is very consistent, all the numbers exactly the same. So the second vault, 14.3. If she manages the same score, then she will drop in just behind Jessica Gadirova. Needs a little more for this 5.2 difficulty vault. Well, that's going to be a really interesting one from an execution standpoint. Have a look at the start and the finish of that vault. Certainly attacked it with considerable power.
Well, she had a very good beginning and a very good conclusion to this vault, but there was a moment, wasn't there, when in the air it looked like she was potentially a little bit out of control, but she pulled it back and was able to go for a very nice landing for the half on. The front layout, half off, piked her body a little bit in the air.
Did well to control the little adjustment shuffle as she landed that. It's going to be a contending display, that, from Melnikova. Nagorny goes into the silver medal position, 14.266. That is the same number posted by Artur Davtyan, but he has a higher execution score, the Armenian, and that wins in the tiebreak. Now then, who is this, you might ask? He's an exciting young athlete, Gugik Kachikian of Armenia, the third strongest in qualification. It's his senior international debut, but he impressed at the Glasgow Junior European Championships, where he won bronze on the pommel horse.
Very nice work so far. The top of his routine had just a little flicker of form where his legs came apart. One of these elements on one pommel there as well. But he's recovered well.
Oh, he's an exciting young athlete. Great potential. He was fourth at the Junior World Championships as well in Hungary. And he does just about control and pirouette stylishly round into his dismount. He had maybe just a little flicker of dissatisfaction on his face as he concluded that routine, but that's a mighty impressive display from the young man.
Well done indeed. There were a couple of moments in this routine where he had to fight a little bit, and maybe his heart went into his throat just a tad. But overall, handled himself very well. Ever so slightly out of control at the beginning of this handstand pirouette dismount, but pulled it right back around.
Second place for Melnikova, 14.416 for her, behind Jessica Gadirova. So we know that these two titles, the vault and the pommel horse, will not be going to the Russian Federation. Now, Chasha Kiselev has been so close for so long getting to a European vault final. The 27-year-old is finally here. And she starts well, and it is a joy to see this veteran athlete from Ljubljana, who was 14th in qualification in 2015. The following year she was 9th in qualification, she was 10th in 2018, she was 11th in 2019. She comes in as the 7th strongest qualifier here. That's a lesson in perseverance, isn't it?
It is. And this Yurchenko 1.5, very well done. Just the step backward, a touch of under rotation. Also just a little bit of bent legs in the afterflight.
She is a coach and a judge as well. She has a very strong knowledge of the inner workings of the code of points. She handled the occasion of her first European Championship final well with that inaugural vault. Really is one of those athletes who's battled back from very bad injury. Had a lot of ankle trouble. 13.7 the opening vault score for Kiselev. That's just about a 10th down from qualification. She's given a fine account of herself, and she breaks into a beam and a grin as she walks away from the field of play. That's great work, isn't it, from Chasha Kiselev?
Well, she has risen to this occasion. Beautiful second vault, handspring, front tuck with a full twist. Not a vault we see from a lot of competitors. She has made it her own.
It has been a battle to get to an occasion like this, and she has just proven how much she belongs in a European vault final.
And from that reaction, you can see what it means to her. And as a gymnast, there's no better feeling than going out on a big occasion and doing something like this. Really well done.
There will have been many people over the years who would have thought that the chance to see Sasha Kiselev in a major continental final was never going to come, and she proved everyone wrong. And what about this young man, from veteran to newcomer? Gugi Kachikian goes into the bronze medal position with 14.033. And what that means is Armenia does have a guaranteed medal, courtesy of Arta Davtyan. 2 to go. Joe Fraser of Great Britain, the 5th strongest in qualification, 14.166, best known for his work on the parallel bars, where he is the reigning world champion.
Joe Fraser. Scissor handstands to begin. As you say, Ollie, he is most known for his work on the parallel bars, but he's also a very fine all-around gymnast and swings a very good pommel horse routine. Look at his hips and how far above the horse they are. Makes the whole thing look better. And so far swinging very well.
Well, Joe Fraser. We've spoken of the fact that this is a final for somebody to seize control of. Davtyan leads the way, then Nagorny, then Kachikian. Does Joe Fraser impose himself upon that? That was quite a display.
Very, very good work. And this is not the first time that we have seen Joe Fraser kind of turn up, deliver a super routine, and challenge for a medal.
Now that's a really interesting point you make there, because that doesn't it just bring back so many memories of the parallel bars final at the World Championships, which was a nervous final for so many athletes, and he was the steady gentleman. 4th place for Kiselev. She's not quite able to impose herself upon the medals, but you know what? She's won her battle. And she has won her battle as well. Julia Steingruber, the return from awful injury, 3rd strongest in qualification, with a big vault coming up. And well delivered too.
Oh, phenomenal. This is the hardest vault that we will see in this final. Difficulty tariff of 5.8. So to compare it to the double twisting Yurchenko, she is up 0.4 of a point in difficulty compared to everybody who has done that. Such a wonderful vaulter. So much power, so much block. Just gets up into the air. Comes onto the table forward, and look at the lift into this 1.5 twist. Plenty of time right there. She sees the mat, brings her body around, and is able to go for a really stellar landing. Big gymnastics. This vault has served her so well for many years.
This is going to be a score that will be most troublesome to those sitting at the top of the leaderboard. 15.033 in qualification for Julia Steingruber's first vault. Easily the strongest score for any vault in the competition. She's won 8 European Championship medals in her career. 5 times they've been gold medals.
It's going to be very interesting to see what she has in reserve as a second vault. She has a couple of options.
Yes, It's in the qualification process. Well, there's the number, 15.066. Now, in qualification, she produced a 4.6 difficulty vault. One suspects knowing that she had secured herself a berth in the final. So, as you say, we are to expect something different here. 5.4 is the number.
She's going to do the harder difficulty. Yurchenko double full, and wow, she delivers.
The job has been completed by Julia Steingruber. It is surely mathematically going to result in a position right towards the top of the leaderboard.
She has spoken in the past about how this vault, and particularly twisting off of the table, the way that she does a little bit there, has posed a challenge for her. But on the big occasions, she has also shown that she is perfectly capable of handling it.
Well, we might see a real change to the leaderboard courtesy of this display from Julia Steingruber. Fractured her tibia, tore a knee ligament and her meniscus ahead of the European Championships in Glasgow in 2018. What a stellar return it has been. 14.066 for Joe Fraser. He goes into the bronze medal position. And let's just take stock of what that means in this men's Pommel horse final. It is Davtyan who leads, then Nagorny, then Fraser. But here comes the champion from 2018, the bronze medalist at the World Championships in Stuttgart, and the Commonwealth Games champion, Rhys McClenaghan of Ireland. Top qualifier.
Beautiful sequences.
And Rhys McClenaghan is another who has had extreme difficulty on this apparatus. Even to the very finest, this can happen, and it was a case of so very nearly for the 21-year-old. And yes, he is one of the finest out there doing this, but that doesn't mean that he has also not suffered from the inability to really train and compete in the way that he would like to have done. This is just step one of the process of return for McClenaghan, who has qualified for the Olympic Games. Shows either side of that just what he can do. But it has been that sort of final. It's been a troublesome and challenging final for all of the competitors. But there's one thing we know of Rhys McClenaghan. He is an extraordinarily determined athlete, and he will not let that get him down.
Such a well-composed routine. Very thoughtful work on the part of him and his coach putting this together.
Well, it was clearly going to be the case, wasn't it? Julia Steingruber, 14.824. She goes into the gold medal position, and she is guaranteed a medal because there's just one more competitor to go. It is Azerbaijan's Marina Nekrasova. Her 7th European Championship. She was among the favourites for gold in 2020, but didn't make the final. This her first final in apparatus gymnastics at the European Championships, and regrettably for the full strongest qualifier, it has not happened.
Just did not quite get the push that she needed. It looked very good in the air, tucks her legs down, but the mat came up a little too quickly. And she was really going for a great landing, going for the stick. And sometimes when you do that, if you're a little bit off, that's the result.
This is a gymnast who was on the verge of ending her career almost a decade ago, and thinking about life as a junior coach. Then she moved to Azerbaijan from the Russian Federation. She was actually born where Angelina Melnikova was born, in Voronezh, and made the move to Azerbaijan, competed for them, and she won the World University Championship gold 2 years ago in Napoli in a fine moment in her career. 12.433. Okay, it's not the kind of number that one hopes that Nekrasova would produce, but her tail does sit alongside that of Chasha Kiselev in terms of the determination shown to get to this stage. And another thing that one must say of Marina Nekrasova, a lot has been spoken of the German team making the decision to wear different competition attire, wear bodysuits, to send a positive message out to young athletes. Marina Nekrasova was one of the very first to do that some years ago. And that's a fine finish to her competition, a good second vault.
Well, that was redemptive. This is the Sukahara 1.5 twist, and that is the way that Marina Nekrasova knows how to vault. That's what she can do.
Just a little jarred as she lands, one of those cases of the floor finding her a little bit more than her finding the floor, but now she's found her way into a European Championship vault final, and that itself is a fine story for the gymnast who turned 26 recently. The number is in for Rhys McClenaghan, 13.566 for him. He is in 5th position, and what it means is that the gymnast about whom we made the supposition that maybe this was the kind of day to be a steady gymnast, well, it was the kind of day to be a steady gymnast, because Arta Davtyan is the European champion on the Pommel horse. Davtyan securing the gold medal, courtesy of the execution tiebreak ahead of Nikita Nagorny, who takes the silver medal, and it's a bronze medal for Joe Fraser of Great Britain. So there they are, the classified results in the men's Pommel horse competition. Joe Fraser of Great Britain taking the bronze medal, the silver medal going to Nikita Nagorny, and the gold to Arta Davtyan. That is a triumph.
It is a triumph, and perhaps a bit of a surprise, but this has been a surprising day of competition, hasn't it?
Marina Nekrasova comes in 7th position in this European Championship vault final. It is only the second time that Armenia has won a gold medal at the European Championships of Artistic Gymnastics. The classified results in the women's vault competition, with Angelina Melnikova of the Russian Federation taking the bronze medal.